What crime can you see yourself possibly doing? We went into an abandoned factory in St. Paul. Man, it was so fucking cool. There was tons of couches and shit in there, so you could tell people at least used to hang out there and sleep there. That was kind of creepy, but luckily nobody was in there at the time. We went in the middle of the day. I wouldn't do this at night, haha. Almost got caught with some friends at an old military base. The whole place was a public historical site, so we weren't in the wrong for just being there, but some old batteries were overgrown and had huge fences all around them, so naturally we had to go inside and see what it was like. Overall 8/10. Inside was dark and creepy, plus hiding from the guards wasn't too fun. Oddly enough, this might be the only positive to the last tax overhaul. Besides raising taxes, they essentially got rid of deductions for 75% of Americans that don't have exorbitant items to deduct in the first place. On one hand, not being able to deduct anything at all really sucks, but it does cut out a lot of work for the IRS as they can find intentional fraud. The other end of that is that the IRS doesn't give two shits about most situations. They don't care about 20-somethings that put $50 in the wrong section which didn't even account for the final numbers. They mostly care if you don't pay or commit significant and outright levels of fraud. If you mess up, they typically don't even look into outside of making sure you didn't underpay, which they won't come and arrest you as long as you pay it, which in most cases isn't unmanageable or small amounts. Overpaying, which I did once by sending the IRS $400, took 2 years to get back, and it was a hellacious nightmare. Same thing with me, except reindeer skull, bone and horn fragments laying about in northern Finland. I would never do that. No, it is illegal, because pretty much all reindeers are owned by someone, and legally those bones and horns belong to them. To be fair, I have never seen horns or a complete skull just lying there, but I did find a partial skeleton with a cracked skull between two boulders once. I of course left it there, and definitely did not take a souvenir. There would be pretty steep fines for doing so, after all. Yeah, wait until you're walking down a forest road and you see an perfect eagle feather. You're going to want to pick it up. I knew a guy who people called Tommy Eagle Feather. He did just that and was arrested and charged for breaking the law. I saw an eagle feather on the ground, and my friend made me leave it. I said, "HTF, will the police know?" He said, "They will know. They just know." I don't know HTF they would know, but Tommy also said they would know, and it's a major fucking hassle. Federal, I think. I break into Tiffany's at midnight. Do I go for the vault? No, I go for the chandelier. It's priceless. As I'm taking it down, a woman catches me. She tells me to stop. It's her father's business. She's Tiffany. I say number. We make love all night. In the morning, the cops come and I escape in one of their uniforms. I tell her to meet me in Mexico, but I go to Canada. I don't trust her. Besides, I like the cold. 30 years later, I get a postcard. I have a son and he's the chief of police. This is where the story gets interesting. I tell Tiffany to meet me in Paris by the Trocadero. She's been waiting for me all these years. She's never taken another lover. I don't care. I don't show up. I go to Berlin. That's where I stashed the chandelier. Quick story. I've always wanted to smash a window, but I don't commit crimes. But one night in college I had my chance. I heard yelling outside the house I was living in, and walked outside. There was a small group with one wielding a baseball bat, yelling at another group, my roommates, and waving the bat around, threatening a fight. I was apparently the only sober one, as I had just been woken up by this, and was kind of pissed about it. I walked right over to the group without hesitation and grabbed the bat out of the guy's hands and told them it's time to go home. They got in their car and instead of reversing, tried running me and my roommates over. Since I had the bat and was now inches away from their car, I repeatedly smashed their front windshield. It felt amazing. Funny thing is, when they finally reversed, they got stuck on a rock, and I was the one helping them get unstuck. I told them nicely that I still had the bat, so don't mess with me while I try and get their car unstuck. My face was very close to a car door. When the cops arrived, I told them what happened, They found the car driving CPL miles away with a smashed windshield, arrested their crew, and told me I did the right thing, and I wasn't in trouble. I smashed someone's car window with a bat and it was okay. Felt so good too. Okay, time for some drama. This shit is going to be very long, but read it until the end. My maternal grandma has always been so full of herself, always sees herself as perfect, never admits she makes mistakes and so on. She abused my mom as a kid, while spoiling my uncle. What can I say? A horrible person in general. Time skip to nowadays. My uncle sold her only apartment and just left his own mother homeless, so now he had to pay rent for an apartment so she could live there. He moved in another country and started sending her money so she can pay all her taxes and stuff. Everything seemed normal for a while, until she started having complaints about everything, the neighbors, the landlord, the apartment, etc. We moved her into another apartment where she started having complaints about her neighbors again. She developed a paranoia that some tried to steal her water and electricity, was knocking on her walls and stealing her internet. There was none of that. We checked. It was just a bunch of normal noises that you hear in every normal apartment building. She didn't want to hear it, no matter how hard we tried explaining to her. Instead, she decided to knock back at the neighbors that stole from her and take out her anger on the furniture. Ended up destroying the apartment, yelling at nothing at 2 a.m. And the neighbors almost called the police. She still believed she was the victim and refused to let us help her and take her to a doctor. It was obvious she is going insane little by little. She is like 80 years/old living alone, even though we call and visit regularly, and not having friends because she is so full of herself and no one wants to be around her. We moved her into a new apartment recently, showed her how everything is secured, new, the neighbors were good and stuff. She finally seemed happy and satisfied. But after some time she started with the same shit, broke the kitchen sink and the bathroom. When we ask her what happened, she either says I don't know, someone is entering my apartment, or maybe I accidentally hit the sink in my anger, which means she knows what she is doing to at least some extent but refuses to change and admit it. Me and my parents worry about what trouble she will cause next every day. I think it's best to send her to a home for old people where they can't take proper care of her and we can still visit her, but my uncle refuses, so he can keep his reputation in town, and me and my parents can't afford financially taking things in our hands, so we do what my uncle decides. I secretly hope she dies sooner. I hate myself for that. It will be better for her and for everyone, but unfortunately, she is even healthier than my parents. No signs of dying anytime soon. I sometimes ask myself, what if she fell down the stairs? What if I murder her? I brush it off, and I know I can never bring myself to actually kill someone, and I know maybe I should still go to a therapist for only having murderous thoughts, and yeah. Long story short, murder. Sorry for any mistakes, English is not my first language. I can see myself being charged for murder, manslaughter, or aggravated assault, if I end up having to defend myself from someone whom has the intent to severely harm or kill me or a loved one. If there are multiple people or even just one person with a weapon, doesn't matter what kind, my life would be at risk and I may have to kill a few people to get out of that. Or if I ever see my half-brother again, I don't know what I'd do if I ever saw him again, but he can go fuck himself. There are a few, and they're all very boring. Exporting cryptographic software without a permit. This has been surprisingly easy to do by accident at some periods in history. Accidentally exporting some boring electronic component, for example a transistor or diode, that I signed a no-export agreement on, so some form of breach of contract. I've got tons of such components ordered direct from China with no such agreement, but then I have a few ordered in North America, also originating from China, where I have to sign a bunch of paperwork saying it won't leave the country. They're exactly identical parts and I have several hundred of them in each case. I can't tell them apart. Practicing engineering without a license, just by talking about engineering while traveling through areas that require this in some weird contexts. I own an engineering company, but my degree is not in engineering and I am not a member of a professional order. Software piracy on software that I paid for. For example, companies suddenly requiring I jump through account creation hoops, or requiring that I share my data with them, years after I purchased the software license from a completely different company. It's not okay. Child abuse. No, not what you're thinking, you sicko. I have his neighbor who has an incredibly bratty 6-year-old. The kid acts like she's 3 and throws a fit to get what she wants. Her parents have absolutely no idea how to freaking discipline her, and are not willing to take any suggestions. Anyways, she came to my 5-year-old sister's birthday party. Everything was great and everyone was about to start leaving when this little shit started begging for more cake. When she was told no, a huge fucking meltdown ensues. She started screaming and wailing and kicking. This almost 7-year-old was throwing a fit like a toddler. Her parents just ignored her and she kept on getting louder and louder, screaming at the top of her lungs like she was being fucking murdered, saying I want cake. She even went as far as saying that she was being starved and that she would die of starvation if she didn't eat cake. Some smart-ass little boy grabbed a piece of fruit from the fruit tray and said, "Here, eat this and you won't die." She fucking kicked him in the mouth and knocked out a tooth. Her parents called her a bad girl and walked off. I swear to fucking I almost backhanded this kid across the face, grabbed a piece of cake and shoved it down her throat, and threw her out the front door right on her fucking face. Her parents did absolutely nothing to stop this kid from being a brat. All they did was offer her stuff like McDonald's and a lollipop. Murder, suicide. If I was ever taken for a ride, like legally blasted, divorced, and taken for everything, seriously, the legal system is so fucking broken, and it wouldn't be that way if people just said fuck it and started taking things into their own hands. I just settled a legal case, and 99% of it is who can stall the longest and who has the most money. A man can lose rights to their child for no reason. The mom will be paid money, and another man can see their child more than the biological dad. They could bleed you dry for all your money. There is no equality. So if I ever get completely dumped on, I'm not going to sit by and let it happen. If they take half, sure, but if they try to ruin me, like take my pension, home, pets, kids, etc., nah, not happening. My perfect crime. Step 1, buy dino nuggets. Step 2, sell them on the black market for 5x more than I bought them for. Step 3, track down the person who bought it. Step 4, find the country they live in. Step 5, to make sure that they never realize they've been scammed, go to their country and commit unimaginable amounts of war crimes. I will turn the Geneva Convention into a fucking checklist. I won't stop until I'm caught. Step 6, recover every box of dino nuggets in the country. Step 7, commit war crimes in one region of the country, baiting the military into tracking me down. Step 8, once they are within a square kilometer of me, I board a helicopter to the capital. Step 9, bring down the country's federal government by starting an uprising. Step 10, get the uprising bad enough that the U.S. military intervenes. Step 11, get into a shootout with U.S. military operatives. Step 12, get arrested and sentenced to execution. Step 13, for my last meal, order my box of dino nuggets. Step 14, eat the dino nuggets. Step 15, get killed. And that is my crime. I get a couple dollars, a box of dino nuggets, and bring down a government. Was at wrong place at the wrong time. True story. I got arrested because of someone else's stupidity. I'm 31 and don't have a record. But now I too have to deal with this fucking bullshit. When this is all said and done, I will be getting my record and everything wiped clean. I'll also gonna be suing for having to deal with this. I'm already fucked enough as it is already, and in a bad spot. That shit didn't help my mental health or my well-being. You know when you're super thirsty, so you go into a store, get a drink, open it immediately to take a sip, then you go around the store just to chill a bit and maybe find a snack. But then when you go pay, you completely forgot that the drink in your hand is also an item. Almost happened twice. Caught myself though. It has always been nice people sitting behind the register, so they just laughed at my panic. So accidental theft. repairing a two-lure appliance protected by a digital anti-circumvention device, like a tractor. Yes, tractors have DRM. Finding fertile seed from licensed grain crops and growing it. Having licensed grain grow on my property without my knowledge because the sterile seeds blew onto my property and germinated, thereby causing me to steal it in the eyes of the law. Doing my own home Ethernet wiring without the legally required license. Yes, for Ethernet, pot brownies. Crime is so general. Look at all the things that are crimes. Speeding in your car or walking off with a pen from your job. Anyway, my actual crimes would almost certainly be drug-related. If drugs were legal, I'd probably do more drugs. I knocked that shit off a long time ago, but I'd probably get high again in my old age. Maybe some mushrooms occasionally, or some speed so I can get things done. Who knows? Probably urinating in a public space. They closed all the public toilets where I live, and all the cafes have started getting shirty with people that just walk in for a pee. I mean, it's becoming quite commonplace to just see people urinate on the high street, right there in plain view. If you really got to go, you gotta go. Sorry, nature is nature. I have always figured I look too nerdy/goofy/young to be a drug dealer, hence why I think I would make a great one, as no one would suspect the most innocent-looking one, who clearly just sits at home all day doing nothing. Something about everyone just seeing me as innocent and incapable of something criminal, makes me feel like the perfect candidate for doing it. I'm usually a good citizen and I try my best, but having struggled with schizoaffective disorder, I've had some manic episodes in the past that included me borderline breaking the law. Looking past drug use, I'm gonna go with public disturbance and police assault. Granted, I'm like 90 pounds, so I can't do much harm with my bare fists. Oddly enough, this might be the only positive to the last tax overhaul. Besides raising taxes, they essentially got rid of deductions for 75% of Americans that don't have exorbitant items to deduct in the first place. On one hand, not being able to deduct anything at all really sucks, but it does cut out a lot of work for the IRS, as they can find intentional fraud. The other end of that is that the IRS doesn't give two shits about most situations. They don't care about 20-somethings that put $50 in the wrong section, which didn't even account for the final numbers. They mostly care if you don't pay or commit significant and outright levels of fraud. If you mess up, they typically don't even look into outside of making sure you didn't underpay, which they won't come and arrest you as long as you pay it, which in most cases isn't unmanageable or small amounts. Overpaying, which I did once by sending the IRS $400, took 2 years to get back, and it was a hellacious nightmare. Okay, time for some drama. This shit is going to be very long, but read it until the end. My maternal grandma has always been so full of herself, always sees herself as perfect, never admits she makes mistakes, and so on. She abused my mom as a kid, while spoiling my uncle. What can I say? A horrible person in general. Time skip to nowadays. My uncle sold her only apartment and just left his own mother homeless, so now he had to pay rent for an apartment so she could live there. He moved in another country and started sending her money so she can pay all her taxes and stuff. Everything seemed normal for a while, until she started having complaints about everything: the neighbors, the landlord, the apartment, etc. We moved her into another apartment where she started having complaints about her neighbors again. She developed a paranoia that some tried to steal her water and electricity, was knocking on her walls and stealing her internet. There was none of that. We checked. It was just a bunch of normal noises that you hear in every normal apartment building. She didn't want to hear it, no matter how hard we tried explaining to her. Instead, she decided to knock back at the neighbors that stole from her and take out her anger on the furniture. Ended up destroying the apartment, yelling at nothing at 2 a.m. And the neighbors almost called the police. She still believed she was the victim and refused to let us help her and take her to a doctor. It was obvious she is going insane little by little. She is like 80 years/0 living alone, even though we call and visit regularly, and not having friends because she is so full of herself and no one wants to be around her. We moved her into a new apartment recently, showed her how everything is secured, new, The neighbors were good and stuff. She finally seemed happy and satisfied, but after some time she